Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Divided Films, the podcast where audiences and critics disagree about movies and we pick sides. With me, as always, is my co-host Keith.
Hello.
He declares from a mountaintop, and
Ricola.
brought to you by Ricola. And coming back to the podcast today, our great friend, the very talented Melanie Rivera Waldman.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me back.
Of course. We had so much fun the first time you were on the pod, so we couldn't wait to get you back on. So Melanie, why don't you tell us about what you've been working on lately and what you got in the works?
While in quarantine, whilst secluded in my own home by myself, I have managed to recently produce a short film with several other actors and many talents from both sides of the country to produce a really fun mockumentary called Couples Therapy. So that literally, part of the competition ended yesterday. That's like the very end. So now we wait. Today is April 6th. We wait until the 29th, I believe, and that's when all the judges' scores come in. They announce the finalists. So,
all right. Well, good luck with that, and for everyone, take the time to watch Couples Therapy.
It's a great short.
Yeah, really cool cast, great short. A couple members of our crew. Everybody, we had like 87%. The purpose of the competition, I should start with, is that everybody on your team, one person has to have disability. So you can have as many crew members and actors as you want. Our cast and crew was 87% disabled.
Oh.
So that was really fun.
That's great. Well, congrats on that, Mel. That's really excited to see how that comes out, and hopefully you bring home some shiny metal trophies to show off.
Oh, they're glass.
Ooh, even fancier. That's like what the bougie people bring home.
They're like that. Have you ever see Sweet Home Alabama when like lightning hits sand? That like shape. That's what it looks like. It's really cool.
Oh, dang.
Really
Oh,
fun.
cool.
So cross your fingers.
All right. Well, so today we are here to discuss the 2013 dramedy, The Secret Life of Pets. No, wait, sorry. The Secret World of Alex Mack. Oh, wait, one more time.
Too culty.
Sorry, throwback maybe? I don't know. We're actually here to talk about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, directed and starring Ben Stiller. This movie falls into the category of having a negative score from critics and a positive score from audiences. On Rotten Tomatoes, 51% of critics approved, 71% of audiences approved, so 20% difference there. And the critics' consensus for Secret Life of Walter Mitty: it doesn't lack for ambition, but The Secret Life of Walter Mitty fails to back up its grand designs with enough substance to anchor the spectacle. All right, so
Ouch.
kind of giving it a little credit there, the critics, nice try, I guess, but not quite hitting the mark. So that's kind of interesting. But maybe for audiences, it is hitting the mark, so, it seems. So, I don't know, what do you guys, have you seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? This was a first viewing for me, but had you guys seen this when it originally came out way back in 2013?
I did. I don't think I saw it in the movie theaters. I think I rented it because I'm a very big Ben Stiller fan. Love him.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think I rented it. There are some former movies of his that I'm a huge fan of, and we'll get to that. But this time I did watch it again, and I had to keep pausing it because I kind of like, once you see it once, step by step exactly how it goes. Like, JJ, I'm sure you could recount it step by step just after watching it one time, So this was my second, and it wasn't bad.
Okay, not bad. Not like the most high-flying phrase,
Greatest
but
thing.
not bad.
Not like Cruel Intentions.
They should put that into the movie's promotions. Not bad, quote, Melly. All right. What about you, Keith?
No, yeah, this is my second time seeing this movie, and I probably rented it. I also was excited to see what he would do after Tropic Thunder. And if I remember correctly, this was also a good trailer.
Yes.
Probably.
Because I remember, if anything, the cinematography for this movie is outstanding. Like, that is like one of the big points of this movie. I kind of I remember the feelings that this movie gave me instead of the plot. Like, I always forget, even though I watched this movie last week, I had to remind myself that Patton Oswalt is in this movie. But I remember how I felt. I remember how I felt watching this movie, and it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very sentimental movie, and I really appreciate the kinds of messages they're trying to put out there. But they are a bit like it's a bit hammy, right? The way they try to
Sanguine.
A bit?
A bit.
bit
It's
hammy.
really hammy.
Taste of ham, just a little bit.
Yeah, right. I can still taste it now after watching it. But I was just thinking, I really appreciate what this movie's doing, but I think at times there's just some things that just don't work, right? Like, not everything works in this. And like, for starters, I really didn't like the way they did some of these daydream sequences. Like, it didn't really work, a lot of those, for me. And in fact, it kind of took me out of it. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of interested in the story and the setup, but now we're having like these sort of action movie fantasies that he's having in his head, but like tonally, like, it makes me not take it as seriously, because it's kind of,
Especially the Adam Scott one.
that one went on for way too long.
Don't let us not forget Benjamin Button.
Oh yeah, the weird parody.
Let's not forget when he is a man baby and says, "I bought this suit in a doll store."
Yeah, like, that really hit and miss with the comedy and those daydreaming sequences, and it was almost as if that those daydreaming sequences were from some like rejected Ben Stiller comedies that didn't quite make it in the 2000s to fruition. So,
Damn.
like, because then everything else in the movie is trying to be like a little more serious, and I can understand having these daydream sequences that are like different styles, but they were just done in a way that was just a miss for me. It was like too self-indulgent.
Well, he did throw everything. I feel like there isn't much of a story here, and I'm kind of curious. There had to be a story with the old movie. This is based off an old movie and an old short story.
Yeah.
That they've been trying to remake for ages. But I think, to Ben Stiller's credit and also to his detriment, he threw every directing tactic at the book. Like, everything he knew, every trick, every style that he knew about being a director into this movie.
Right. I mean, he had directed before, right? Because he directed Tropic Thunder, right? He
yeah,
directed comedies before. But I don't know if he had directed...
Reality Check, nothing like this, but Reality Check is like a dramedy, like a indie dramedy. But he did that like in 93, 94.
Yeah, because it seems like he, again, like, when I was seeing some of these daydream sequences, I'm like, that's more familiar Ben Stiller style with those comedies, even though that's not working in the context of this film. That seems more familiar. But like the parts of the movie where he was more dedicated to like the dramatic story and the themes he was trying to explore, like, I feel like he was having more success there, and he should have maybe just really devoted himself to the tone of the more like serious dramatic parts of the movie, and not try to like take a step back at times into the more familiar comedic style that we already known him for, because again, it didn't work in the context of this film.
I think also, like, in post, there probably was like a lot of heart involved with the directing, to the point that, like, he explained to the editors, I want these moments to not be cut, and that's what it needed. It needed the timing of editing to like in the park when they're talking to the son and they're leaving. Kristen Wiig says, "Oh, my son's running out on the street, but hey, I wanted to tell you." And then she goes on for like 5 more minutes. It's like, and the rest of the movie, like I said, I had to keep taking breaks because it was just too much, like, to sit with. I was like, wait, but can't we just move on to the next thing? Why is this Adam Scott fight coming out of an elevator?
I know. I was like, move on from this, right? It was like stalling the progress of the movie, of a story that I was getting interested in, but then it would diverge and I would then like lose interest, right? As soon as I was getting on board with the actual story, they would lose me with these tangents.
I wonder how much that had to be the studio, because Ben Stiller didn't really write the script. Like, the studio had to be like, you gotta get people in the seats. Like, make his imagination wild.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because I actually preferred when the things started going away.
Yeah, when like once he goes on his adventure and finally starts living his life, that's when it got way more interesting to me. And if anything, kind of the more like subtle sort of daydream things worked better for me when it was subtle, not when it was over the top. So like when Kristen Wiig comes out with the guitar and then it inspires him to jump onto the helicopter, that worked for me. I could have used
like that too.
Sort of like more blending of his daydreaming and reality. I think if there was more of that.
Yeah. Blurs that line between what the two are and kind of brings you more back into what he's actually doing and not constantly thinking, is this a real thing? Like, is this happening for real? You can't tell until they say his name like 5 times in a row. Beetlejuice. Right.
And then but like it gets like predictable at times where he does like the zoning out for so long, then we come to expect it at certain times. But yeah, if you happen to maybe blur it even more and integrate the story with the daydreams together, that's when it worked best for me. But they only did it like a couple of times towards the middle, because it's crazy. I mean, it's once he goes out on these adventures, I do think that's where it picks up a lot more. And I mean, how often does a movie, an American major film, get filmed in like Greenland or in like the unexplored areas or the wild areas of Afghanistan or something like that? I was in it for the adventurous parts of it. I thought that was cool. And then the shots are of course beautiful.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. One of my favorites is when he jumps out of the helicopter into the water, and you see the packages just like, and then he's floating up. It was so nice. I was watching it on my laptop screen. It looked beautiful. Like it's a lot of that.
And that one even had a good joke in it. It's just like, hey, we meant to jump on the other side.
Get the
other boat.
Yeah, that kind of humor worked better. Because it's like a wild. I mean, he's going on. It was like a 0 to like 100, right? With not going on any adventures his whole life, and then going to like Greenland, and then jumping on a helicopter and off a helicopter and stuff
without a clue of where he was heading, just following clues.
Yeah, I feel like I would have like a nervous breakdown if I were him, just kind of like running through like the countryside of Iceland without like a phone or any sort of like way of contacting anyone. That's like nuts.
Well, that's where I'm at right now.
This is all part of Keith's daydream.
The ice, Jace. She moves like a woman. I'm Walter. Mitty.
Cheryl. Melhoff. Where have you been?
Testing the limits of the human spirit.
I'd like to climb your hair, test that out.
Perhaps I can contact you, possibly through my poetry falcon.
Poetry falcon. I like that.
Do you think if I hit him with a paperclip, would he move?
I thought too, though, because they established that he hasn't had any adventures his whole life. Like, he's on the eHarmony call with Patton Oswalt, and it's like, I've never gone anywhere, and they're trying to establish how boring his life is. But I don't know. He lives in New York City. How boring can your life be when you live and work in New York, in Manhattan? Is your life really that dull?
It sounded like, if I remember correctly, and that's like, I'm trying to remember like the plot of it now. Man, it's only been a week. He was emotionally like traumatized by the death of his father.
Yes.
Something like that. I don't think they explored
Like
that too much, but that's like the implication.
I think the movie said it done enough. It did. The movie thinks it did enough. I'll say that.
Right. I mean, they established like the family dynamic he has, and they have what's her name?
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn.
She's great. I feel like she's kind of underutilized in this. She kind of just there's a little exposition towards the beginning, and she just kind of like is there for a couple other scenes. Like I always that's a bit of a pet peeve of mine when you have a really great comedic actor who is very underutilized.
Absolutely. Such a sting. And I feel like that's what Keith was saying. Like, I wonder what the trailer was like. I feel like they must have put her face on this because, like, you can't. She's not just a bit part. She's a big deal to me, at least.
Yeah.
Well, her career has like a little Catherine Hahn love. Her career has blossomed into some well-deserved, like, she is a well-deserved character actress now. Like, she was always like the best I remember her in Win a Date with Tad Hamilton. She is like the best friend bartender, and she always was like the best friend.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing what can happen in a decade where she is the sister to a Ben Stiller in like a couple scenes to being a Marvel villain.
Yes.
Well, I every time she does appear in a movie, even if it is like a small bit part, she makes it more memorable just through like little like
Just
weird
being herself.
Yeah, the quirky ways she reads the lines, I find more memorable. Like in she's an anchor man, and she kind of like makes the most of her small part in that. In Step Brothers, she's pretty funny.
That's where she came to life, like in Step Brothers.
She had a larger part in that, and then of course, like I think most people really got to know her in Parks and Rec. Right, she was like the I guess villain of her season or whatever, but she was so funny.
She wasn't one of the Tammys, was she? I can't remember her on Parks and Rec. Now I feel awful because I love
she
Parks
is
and Rec.
the campaign manager.
She's Bobby Newport's the campaign manager for Bobby Newport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
I'm rewatching that right now, actually. So like I'm very early on still. I'm gonna be genuinely surprised when I see her again. Yeah. It's okay.
Season 4 she comes in.
Okay, I'll look for her. No, she is such a wonderful actress that like not only her career but like looking back at her own education, she's kind of one of the reasons why. I don't know if I've told you guys this. I'm kind of looking at grad school for acting. So she went to Yale, I believe, and I started looking into that because that's where she was at, and I really love her as an actress.
Study the works of like Allison Janney, Kathy Bates, Frances Conroy. Like I like a good character. Margot Martindale, Ann Dowd, Catherine Hahn. I think those are actresses that will work forever.
Yes, absolutely, great careers.
Anyway.
Yeah, but her big part had us on a tangent.
We kind of went into we kind of zoned out into another.
She probably
tangent.
gets like 10%. She probably gets like 10% of the screen time in this movie, but she's gonna get like 30% of the time on this podcast episode.
Yes, she well deserved.
Right, it's just to give her a shout out. But then speaking of Parks and Rec, Adam Scott also in this movie.
He plays such a good dick.
Also in Step Brothers.
Always the dick.
And yeah, it's so funny because in my introduction to Adam Scott was in Parks and Rec, where he was just a normal guy, always looking at the camera. He was like the straight man for so much of it. And then in this, he is like such a jerk, but in a way that like was hard for me to believe because like the guys who are buying this magazine, Life, ironically enough, right? Ben Stiller, who has no life, works at Life magazine. I get it. But these people who bought Life and are basically going to like tear it to pieces and make it profitable, they're like so overly insensitive that it was like hard for me to buy. Right? They have that
no toys in the workplace.
They have that like meeting where they're like, oh yeah, we're really sad that we'll have to fire a bunch of you, but whatever. It's like what? Like it was like way too much for me to take it seriously.
Like the over-exaggeration of Adam Scott's character. This thought occurred to me when I was watching the movie, and I was like, do I keep this to myself? Like, if you guys really enjoyed this, a lot of audience members really love this movie. Looking at their comments, this movie kind of reminded me of like reading like a story time book. Like, someone's reading a book. It's kind of fantastical enough. It's like, and then the mean man, flicked the stapler at the Ben Stiller. Like, it has that, like, and then Ben Stiller said, no, I will go on my own adventure. Like, it kind of has that. I don't want to say like a Hallmark card, but it's almost like a bedtime story.
It's kind of like if you think of those old Frank Capra movies, like It's a Wonderful Life or something, right? You had such of these like old-timey like archetypes, right?
It's a bit fantastical.
Yeah, there's a bit of magic realism, I suppose. And I guess part of that is creating these sort of more like like lesser developed characters, like the jerk boss and so forth. But again, it's a bit old fashioned for me, right? I wish that maybe they took developing the characters a little more seriously.
Well,
thought through this too. Like, have you guys listened to the Shit Town, S-Town on like the podcast?
I have not.
It's kind of just like this storytelling. The way they tell the story of Walter Mitty reminds me a lot of that. Like, it's a life that you're trying to figure out. You should go listen to it, kids. It's very good.
Okay.
However, I was thinking that this movie, while it's very cinematic and beautiful, it's also very boring, and it makes it hard to watch at times. I feel like I would have liked to hear this better with all of these same actors, but like maybe told through story, like as an audiobook or something, you know, like I listened to As You Like It with Helena Bonham Carter as the main character. I can't forget the name. So good. Just hearing her voice did it for me. I saw it all. So I feel like, I don't know, it's just too fantastical, too big of a cast, and like, the comedy just didn't match it for me.
Right, and then maybe like a story that doesn't really have that much going for it, because it does kind of like, he does just wander around for a while in these like far off places. Because like, what does it ultimately amount to? He's just looking for a photograph, right? He's trying to track down a photographer.
He's looking for the guy.
Right. And it's like one of those things where I like totally saw this coming, where he had the photograph all along. It was with them the whole time. You know, it's kind of like the ruby slippers or something.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of obvious. I mean, this photographer, this very like elusive and like crazy photographer played by Sean Penn, who's essentially just himself, I thought, in this movie, doing this guy who goes off into these like ungoverned places and is impossible to find or track down. All right, I'm like, this is just Sean Penn. The photographer's first name is even Sean. Like, just
yes,
be
his
yourself.
name is Sean. His name is Sean.
Right. So that I also found like kind of like at the end of the day, he's looking for this is all over a photograph. Like, you know, is it worth it?
When I went to, I can't imagine the first movie in like the 1930s was about a photograph. But Samuel Goldwyn Jr. I don't know, for some reason, he's like, my father made this movie back in the day, and I want to make a remake. And I like, we don't talk about Walter Mitty, the old one. That's like trying to, I don't know. I'm still trying to find what's special about this movie.
What's the
But when
relevance?
I looked at this, when I looked at the screenwriter, it kind of all made sense how it turned out the way it did. And that's not a knock or a dig at him, because he writes movies like this.
Written by Steve Conrad, right? Who
The Pursuit of Happiness, Wonder. He writes these very, I call these kind of movies like, they're very sanguine. They're very, you know, curl up with the significant other, watch it with the family. That was fun, right, guys? That was fun, right? Significant other.
You feel better, like feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside after
Also
maybe.
Who
not
needs
a
a
dig,
fireplace?
but
Yeah.
It's all about that inspiration porn. That's just basically
Yes.
what it is. Oh,
Yes,
no, anytime.
it's inspiration
Anytime.
porn.
An inspiration poster, like a little inspirational quote in
They're
front of a
covers
sunset.
of magazines, for crying out loud. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
An inspirational meme in itself.
Yeah, did it have to be a whole like film? I don't know. I mean, and one last thing, I'll kind of complain about this Sean Penn photographer character. He has this moment because Ben Stiller finds him in the Himalayas, and the guy's been sitting there, and the shot he's waiting for finally happens. This snow leopard comes into frame, doesn't take the picture. I was like, what? And the guy's like, yeah, like, I like to just live in the moment. Like, what? You're a photographer. Your whole job is to capture the moment, not just live in it. You just let like a once in a lifetime $1 million photo just leave because you want it to be in the moment. I'm like, fuck this photographer. Like, they're paying him the big bucks. Who knows how many other like revolutionary photos he just let slip away.
He has he just has so many. He's got to bank them.
Since we're throwing out our gripes, like I now that I think about it, I kind of when he came back from his trip and he goes to Kristen Wiig's house. See, we don't even know these character names. Like, we're just calling them like Patton Oswalt, Catherine Hahn, Kristen Wiig. And, you know, he has like the longboard. If he just didn't like have an emotional temper tantrum and just like wait like 5 minutes, everything would have been fine. Right? Like, you know, he gets upset that her husband, or no, the pool, or like that guy's not even her husband. It's like the refrigerator guy.
He knocks on the door, right? And it's like, but the guy says, "Honey," like.
Yeah, you know, like that's weird. But I like, if you just wait like 5 minutes, it would have been great to just give her son the longboard in person.
But I thought that was really predictable too, because it's like, oh, this is not as it seems. He's gonna get upset, but like, yeah, it seems as if she's going back to him or something, but it's not really the case. It's a lot of really familiar plot elements.
There's something here. There's a fin here, I think. We are traveling through a porpoise school. Don't fear the porpoise. I don't think it's a porpoise. I'm telling you, it's a porpoise. Be friendly. It will protect you from the sharks. Okay. Come here. Hey. Hey. Okay. That's a shark.
Very sanguine.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. When you mentioned like this screenwriter, yeah, you know, like it makes sense. Like The Pursuit of Happiness, I remember seeing, and I think that is a good movie. But like that one is at least more grounded, and it focuses on the main character and fleshes him out. I mean, it helps that it's based on a true story, but you know, here it's not so much about the character so much as it is about concepts. Very like vague concepts, very like universal sort of themes and messages, but because they're like not specific to characters, it's hard to really grasp onto it.
Right.
I can't explain why, but The Pursuit of Happiness was like it just happened to be one of my quarantine watches for whatever reason, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this movie in a while, and maybe I was just in the mood for it, and it's the exact same feelings I feel about this movie. It's just like I remember the feeling more than the plot. Mm-hmm. It's good, but there's something stopping it from being great and even pretty good. Is it like, or as Mel would say, not bad. Like there's something that's stopping it from being like being like really memorable.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want something to be not bad. That's never like it definitely is shooting for something that is going to inspire other people to live their lives to the fullest. Sure.
It feels like it has, though. A lot of people, a lot of audiences in the comments, they love this movie. And I can understand, like, this movie gets, like, if this movie hits you on the right level, gets you up in the day. Like,
well, you know, if you're, I don't know, I guess if you're in the right state of mind, like, it is, some of it is sort of like a fantasy come to life. Like, oh man, I wish I should too, just to buy a ticket to like some obscure place and take this adventure on impulse, right? There's a bit of fantasy in there, which I can see the appeal of that.
Tangible fantasy.
And of course, like, we all like Ben Stiller. You know, I wanted it to be good. I was rooting for this movie. I'll say that at the very least. I remember seeing the trailers and hoping it would be what it was pitching itself as. Because, yeah, I mean, everyone likes to see a comedic actor turned a little more dramatic and see a different side of them. And I think Ben Stiller has hit better dramatic strides later on. Like, I don't know if you guys ever saw the Meyerowitz Stories on Netflix.
No, I heard about that.
That was really good. And he and Adam Sandler have really great chemistry in that movie. And that is when you really see a good dramatic side to Ben Stiller. Also, him in an earlier film, The Royal Tenenbaums. I think you see a really good side of him. It's both. That's a great dramedy that you see both funny and dramatic sides of Ben Stiller.
But was he right for this movie?
He can't turn right. That was his.
There you go.
He can't turn left.
He can't turn left.
What is this?
Sorry.
A movie for ants?
I had to.
And I don't. Because they've been trying to make this movie forever. Like Jim Carrey was up for it, and whoever would have been the lead of this movie, it would have been a completely different movie and catered to like it would have been a Jim Carrey liar liar type
That's
movie.
so interesting.
Would have been Yes Man.
Oh, I haven't
Almost,
seen that.
yeah. I think that's why they got Jim Carrey to do something like that. But Jim Carrey, Will Ferrell, I think Owen Wilson was supposed to be directed by Ben Stiller.
Oh.
Sacha Baron Cohen was up for it.
Wow.
It seems like they only really considered comedic actors.
All comedic, dramatic.
Dramatic, yeah.
Dramatic. Comedic,
Like
yeah.
all these actors are capable of dramatic roles.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm just curious, like, why they were so determined to have a comedic actor in this. Because then maybe you could have Ben Stiller star in it, but maybe not necessarily direct it.
Right.
Be-
That's
be-
I think I know why he wanted to direct it. I think I know why he kind of became attached to this story. I think he's kind of this decade for him. He's probably going through a midlife crisis. Like he did a movie, like a small independent movie, where he played like he's taking his son to college, and like all three of his college friends have made it successful. Like Greg Kinnear and Jermaine Clement are like successful people, and he's just like he's having like a dad life crisis, I'll say. But I think he kind of really connected to the story.
Funny. You said Greg Kinnear, and I've been waiting to harken back to a little bit of Mystery Men, where Ben Stiller is fantastic, and he's Mr. Furious. That is like my draw for Ben Stiller, and why I wanted to watch this film, because that's one of my all-time favorite Ben Stiller movies. But the thing for me is, when you're directing and acting in something, there's just this different level of responsibility that you take on with it, and like you kind of become the project itself, So for him, maybe it was just a lot of pressure from all of the things he had to incorporate, from planning teams who have, this team has done the fight scene for whatever. I didn't do the research on who worked on what, but
No, he didn't have to.
I didn't go down that road. That's a rabbit hole itself.
Well, yeah, I probably, I don't know who was in his ear, but it's kind of like the daydream sequences, right? He kind of has to like do his Ben Stiller thing, and I don't know if that was him being encouraged to do that, or maybe nobody saying like, hey, like maybe this isn't the right, like not having like an assistant director say like maybe this is not the right tone for these sort of sequences. I don't know, because I can see maybe when you establish yourself for a certain style of comedy, there's that kind of pressure to maybe bring that with you wherever you go, and that could explain why it's here when it shouldn't have been.
I could totally see like a movie studio head like smoking a cigar, like there's nothing happening in this movie. Put in another imagination sequence.
Smoking a
Like
cigar.
this movie's pretty boring.
It's the evil alien from Space Jam who's. We need
Well,
more.
Danny DeVito.
The Super Saiyan fight between him and Adam Scott goes on for like a couple. Like that's definitely padding.
It totally is.
Adam
This
Scott
movie-
starts the fight. This is a place
That makes it a 2 hour. That makes it a like the perfect 2 hour movie. I think it was like 2 hours
Was
on
it
the dot.
really?
I think.
Adam Scott starts the one fight by saying, "This is a place of business, not a place of Jellyman toys."
Yeah, that's right. It was a fight over the Stretch Armstrong,
yeah.
which, by the way, like even in the real life sequences, everyone is looking at Ben Stiller like he's a crazy person for holding this Stretch Armstrong. I've been in offices.
Present.
But I've been in offices where people were holding way weirder stuff than a Stretch
Puppies.
Armstrong. Like no one
Name
cared.
names. Name names.
She named names. I'm telling you, like people in an office don't care. They're not gonna look at you like you're crazy for holding a Stretch Armstrong. It's fine.
Jellyman toys.
Jellyman toys.
Jellyman toys.
This is a place of business. I don't know. I didn't buy. I mean, the other thing, that honestly, Adam Scott like a jerk, which I don't buy. But also like the beard kind of bothered me. I feel like that beard looked like it was taped on.
Yeah.
Like just rip this right off of this guy.
Wonder if that was on purpose.
he could have played the bad guy in Hunger Games. That's what that
Oh.
reminded me of. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that.
Snow or
in the-
Seneca? Seneca Crane with the curly
Yeah.
things on. Yeah, that's Seneca Crane.
He had that going on.
Nerd.
Yeah, it was like super villain. I'm like, what? Like, you can't just slap a beard on a guy and it makes him evil. As much as I've tried.
What's wrong with him? He's got a
I
beard.
also think
JJ.
you raised a good point, Mel, about like the pressure. Like I imagine he's getting studio
Right.
pressure. I also imagine he's the pressure of the last film that he directed and starred in was Tropic Thunder, and to me that movie is still like one of the best comedies, at least of the tens of the past 20 years.
I think Tropic Thunder's great. I think that Ben Stiller's like the 2000s were great for Ben Stiller.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, he had his frat pack, right? Or him and his like Will Ferrell and Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn and all these guys were making all these really great comedies in just the span of like from like 1999 2008, like they were like the definitive comedy cast
Yeah.
for so long. And I feel like pretty much every movie they made was really funny. Even the ones that weren't as memorable were still like fun to watch.
Keeping the Faith. Is that the 2000s? I don't know. I'm looking it up now. But also a very good Owen Wilson Ben Stiller movie.
Which one?
Keeping the Faith?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
you
Keeping the
so-
Faith, isn't that with Ed Norton?
So a rabbi. Oh, shit. But Owen Wilson,
like-
I think, is also in it. I think
It's Ed Norton and Ben Stiller. One plays a priest, one plays a rabbi, and they're both
a
going
rabbi
after
and
Jenna
a priest
Elfman.
fall in love with a woman, and that is the
That's
entire
that,
synopsis.
that's
of the
on
whole
Comedy
movie.
Central at like 1 p.m. and I'm
So
like, it's
good.
one of those. It's so good at that.
JJ, you would love
It's
it.
actually a pretty good movie.
You would really like that one.
Oh, wow. But Ben Stiller also directed Zoolander. Is that correct?
He did.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he directed that. I mean, that's one we could also talk about another day because I believe that's also divided, and that's I don't know. I absolutely love Zoolander. That might be my favorite movie of his. I mean, it's tough because I also love Dodgeball, and Ben Stiller's hilarious in Dodgeball, and Tropic Thunder. I think was maybe the peak of or the last hurrah, I should say, for like the frat pack before say like the Seth Rogen crew took over,
Right.
being like the main comedy crew.
The Seth Rogen gang came in and flipped some tables.
They took over.
Yeah.
They took over the torch, and there you have it. So then, I don't know how good the 2010s really were for Ben Stiller. I feel like he had like a lot of flops in this decade, unfortunately. Maybe one or two sequels to Night at the Museum. I don't know.
Oh yeah, he was the Zoolander 2, definitely.
Oh man, Zoolander 2 is I'm sorry. I love the first Zoolander, but the second one is so bad. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Now, to Ben Stiller's credit, I feel like he progressively has gotten so good at directing because we have all of these movies that we really love. And the last one that it says that he directed before upcoming projects was Escape at Dannemora. Did you guys see that one with
Oh
Patricia?
yes.
Was it Patricia Arquette
Yes.
in
Yes.
that? So good. One of my favorite dramas probably in the last 5-10 years.
It's a good 7-episode mini series, and no, I forgot that he directed that, and I just think he's going. I think he's going I don't know exactly what's going on with his personal life. I think the passing of both his parents. I just think it's just trying to do Zoolander 2. Maybe this movie was supposed to be bigger for him.
Maybe.
I think it has moderate
Yes.
success.
It does. I mean, let's see. Did it make money? Let's look at the fact
90
sheet.
million budget, 188 million box office.
So,
I don't want to.
maybe-
This is not me us shitting on Ben Stiller, by the way.
No, I mean, like I
He-
said,
he-
we love like.
I don't see this as that. I see this as comparing one decade to another. Like he has definitely earned his right in the comedy Hall of Fame. I think
Oh.
Meet the Parents is
Oh.
one of the best comedies ever.
Meet the Fockers. I really like that one too. I agree. I think he's made and been in so many great comedies. We'll always go back to super rewatchability, he had, like I said, that great decade for him and his crew that will always cherish those movies for sure. And you can't take that away.
No,
But, it's just...
I think with a movie like this that the critics did point out as like this movie does not have that much substance, you do have to bring out every directing technique that you know. Mm-hmm. And that can save it in some and can save it in others.
To me, I just felt like, was there enough at stake? I don't know. I know people's jobs are at stake, but I feel like because the characters weren't fleshed out, there just wasn't enough investment for me to really care. I get like I appreciate the message, go live your life, but do I really care if these characters lose their jobs, which is ultimately what happens? Not really.
The 2000s really were like such a good period for him.
Mm-hmm.
Just
and
like,
who knows if this movie Walter Mitty was what it set out to be, if it was this like really resonating drama that hit with everybody, critics and audience alike, then maybe we could have seen a turn in his career and he could have really doubled down on maybe being a more of a dramatic actor after that. Who knows? Because like I said, he's had the chops for that.
And he tried again in the one that you mentioned, which the name is
the Meyerowitz stories.
Yes, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like he's not gonna give up on it. He
shouldn't.
I think Walter Mitty is definitely a dramedy in its own thing. More probably comedy than anything, because it was too jokey for a straight drama. There were just too many awkward little moments that didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's comedic, sometimes not.
It almost seemed like it wasn't sure what tone it was going for at times, and then almost at some points it was like thrilling, trying to be like a thriller. Like when he runs from that volcanic eruption, I'm like, what is going on now? This is a disaster movie all of a sudden, which to me was actually a little frustrating because this guy is like the guy who saves him in the car. He pulls up to Ben Stiller and he's like, even if you don't understand what he's saying, clearly you need to get out of there. Like the guy is saying, like in Icelandic, like we need to go, we need to go, we need to go. And Ben Stiller's like, what are you saying? What? It's like, dude, just get in the car and get out of there. Because clearly something's wrong if there's sirens going on. There were sirens for the volcanic eruption. I don't know, that whole sequence was like, again, like, do we need this suspenseful scene where he's outrunning like the destructive like pyroclastic cloud of a volcano? Like, no.
They must have gotten a good tax credit over there
in Iceland.
I bet you they did.
Come live in Iceland.
I'm sure they probably Greenland.
Oh, but I guess I kind of it was Greenland and Iceland. One sequence I guess I kind of liked was when he did the skateboarding down the windy road with the rocks, but it didn't really amount to anything because then that car pulls up. You could have just hitched a ride with that guy. So you just get this like scene where I guess it's the payoff for knowing he knows how to ride a skateboard, but it didn't really amount to much plot wise.
Well, the music did it for me. That was about it.
A lot of Arcade Fire in this, at least two songs I recognize.
I thought that was very, like, I could see the trailer. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the trailer, but I think the Arcade Fire song was the trailer song.
I think so.
Yes.
But, like, him running slow, I'm like, this is a trailer shot.
Oh, absolutely. You can spot those from a mile away. And in the moment of the movie, it was like way too cheesy.
It was. It was like the music was great. It was sometimes misplaced. The part with Kristen Wiig was like beautiful because it was so organic.
Yes.
But the rest was like, what? Why am I supposed to feel? I'm supposed to feel inspired right now. Okay. Now I got those goggles on. Now that you told me that.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Excellent use of Major Tom.
Yeah,
Excellent
Space Odyssey. That was the best use of music. That you're right. It worked in that moment. That to me is probably the best moment of the movie is when he imagines Kristen Wiig with the guitar and he runs out into the helicopter. That all was probably like the best combination of everything the movie was trying to do at once. Like that's when it actually clicked, but didn't really click at any other moment. Everything else was pretty disjointed for the rest of the film. So that's too bad. I mean, Kristen Wiig I thought was a good casting, right? Just a couple years off of Bridesmaids, and I don't know. I feel like she does play like a good sort of. I feel like that just worked as someone for Ben Stiller to pine over. And,
Yeah.
You know, because there's something about Kristen Wiig where like, yeah, she's really funny and goofy, but she could also be like kind of sexy, and she kind of has like an it factor. I feel, you know.
She's a good
So
ingenue.
I think she worked like she was like the perfect casting choice for that part.
I like it when she's not weird. And granted, she's funny. I like her as Barb is funny, but I like it when she's kind of like skeleton twins playing an actual person.
Yeah, because she's always still a little quirky, but in a very relatable way. Right, you can tell like she's kind of like the stand-in for the audience sometimes in these scenes she has with Walter when he's like zoning out, and she's like, "What's going on? Are you all right, dude? Like, is everything okay?"
Where do you go? That's her line.
Yeah.
Where do you go, Walter?
She was very understanding of him zoning out, because I feel like most other women would kind of just slowly back away,
Be like, hello.
like, okay, see ya.
This guy, I met him. He just totally spaces every time I'm with him.
Yeah, stares at me from afar, gives my son
Rules a little
skateboards.
bit.
What's going on? Where is everybody? Eldos! Come on, Eldos! Eldos, yo! Eldos! Yes! What does that mean? Erection! 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 Erection? Yes! No! Eruption! Eruption! Yes!
Now, what was the last shot of the magazine exactly?
It was like the last cover.
Yeah. Did Sean Penn was Sean Penn like spying on Ben Stiller?
He was creeping on him, that's for sure.
He was creeping on him, but it wasn't the scene before when he's like looking for the piece, right? It was, yeah,
No,
it couldn't have been, right?
This I think was sometime before, because it looked like this was when Ben Stiller. It looked like he was the picture of him that makes it to the cover. The picture that he's looking for the whole time, that's of him that he has the whole time, is of him. I think like sitting on a fountain or something, and he's looking at photos. Like, it's like
Okay,
a very
yeah.
like candid photo. Although I don't know if anyone would examine negatives in broad daylight in front of a fountain. Doesn't seem like a good idea.
Doesn't seem like a very smart place.
No,
No, but Ben, like, I would have been like, I was asking him like, was Sean Penn like a fountain away at like a table, just like there it is.
Got him.
Got-
I'm gonna get you, Walter. I'm gonna get you in a photo, and I'm gonna hide that photo in a wallet that I send you.
As much as I find Sean Penn to be an ass, he kind of worked in this movie.
I agree with that. I fully agree with that.
Right. But
In the capacity that he was in.
Yeah, I liked it.
Thankfully, it was a limited capacity. But also, I didn't totally understand the whole thing, like where his mom talks to Sean Penn's character, like they were chatting in a grocery store or something. Like they were. Like
he came over
Oh, okay. He came over, and he was
and
just
took a picture of the piano, the chipped piano.
right.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And the reason why Walter didn't realize is because when the mom was telling him, he like totally spaced out, which is
Haha.
She
interesting.
did tell him.
Haha.
She did tell him, and he like spaces out so much that he can't even hear what people are saying to him. Which
Yeah, that's an illness.
that's
right?
not good.
Or that's like that's not good for somebody.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of like how a lot of times when people are on their cell phones, sometimes they don't really like they're totally oblivious to their surroundings. So it's kind of like that. It's like instead of going to his cell phone, he's going in his own head. But the result is the same. He's totally oblivious, right? It's like some people, if they're on their phone, you could say, "You just won $1 million," and they're like, "Well, yeah, okay."
They won't even respond. They don't even move. They don't know you're talking to them.
It's crazy. The world we're living in.
I'm so excited to get back into socialization, you guys.
I'm so excited to for people to be able to get together and ignore each other
And be
with each other's
socially
phones.
anxious in the same room
ignore
again.
each other in real life.
I feel like we pay attention to each other more now than we did like pre-COVID.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that. What's
then
it
we can
gonna
go-
be
we can
like
go-
now?
We can go back to being distracted by on each other's phones in social situations.
In person.
Yes, in person.
In person, physically in the same room.
Exactly. I don't know, but did this movie inspire you in any way? Does this movie inspire you to live your life to the fullest? And there's even like when Ben Stiller gets on the plane, there's even the actual words, right? Instead of like put your seatbelt on. Yeah, with Arcade Fire going, it's like we were meant to connect.
I see it and I hear it. I'm there.
Oh, like that was too much. I don't need like the words in like the screens and the safety signs saying it. That was I don't know, that was a little too much for me.
I know these movies exist, and I'm happy people do get like a feeling, like that inspiration feeling out of that. And maybe I did watch Pursuit of Happiness just to be like, maybe I want to be inspired. But I remember watching Soul around Christmas time, and I think that's an excellent movie. But those movies I don't go to movies for like that kind. Like I need to be inspired. Inject me with 2 hours of inspiration porn. I don't. It's like equivalent to like I want to be inspired, so I'll spend a whole day watching reading inspirational quotes.
Right.
And
Or a
watching
book.
inspirational videos. It's like kind of like that.
Yeah, coffee table book full of inspirational
Yeah.
quotes. Or
Just do it. Do it.
Just do it.
Do-
Page
do
after
it.
page, just do it. With
was
art.
that a Starsky and Hutch reference, Keith?
Yeah. Yes. I thought that's a movie I really enjoy.
Do it. Yeah.
Do it.
That's the best. The one quotable line from that movie. Yeah, you know what I get inspired by other things. Like I don't know, my go-to for like just quick cheap inspiration is YouTube videos of America's Got Talent auditions. Like these people who have sad stories and then they get on there and then they get the golden buzzer and it's like really dramatic. Like that's my like quick cheap inspiration. Like okay, I got it now. Whew, okay, I feel better.
Susan Boyle. I'd hit the gold buzzer for Susan Boyle singing Wild Horses.
Okay, that's inspiring.
I think in that capacity, but I don't. I think if you're going into, I see this on Reddit sometimes. Like people go like, "What are movies that I need to be inspired? What are some movies?" I think if you're trying to find a movie to inspire you, it's like if you're looking for it, it's not going to happen.
Well, inspired
Because
in
you'll
what
get a
way?
movie that's not bad.
This is such a
Yeah,
vague
like
source.
in what capacity?
Yeah, like inspired to what? I guess this inspires those. This is maybe inspiring people to like go on adventures or something. But I don't know. I feel like there's maybe better movies out there to do that. If you want to be inspired to, I don't know. It's such a vague concept for me. I need this to be a little more specific. That's what I need too.
I would also like to see his financial situation. Highlight. I think that's what. I don't think people consider that. I don't think people consider that when they're planning out an adventure to Iceland and Greenland, and if they want to,
I think
should do that.
They show like we wound up like spending just on the Iceland Greenland trip like $3,000 or $4,000 in just a couple days. And oh man, when he goes into Afghanistan, there's the one part where he gets held up by like warlords with machine guns. Like, no thanks.
Right. That's not the inspiration I want.
It's like,
Thank
oh
you.
wow, yeah, that really is inspiring me to go on a similar adventure.
And he like snuck into. He's going into like Al Qaeda territory because they go like,
Yeah.
how the hell? And the movie tries to get by with the joke. It's like they love my mom's cookies.
Oh yeah,
doesn't.
the cake, right? It was like
Oh,
the
yeah.
cake. Oh, like
The
they gave the
Clementine
warlords
cake.
the cake, and they're like, "Yeah, great cake. All right, you can go." Like what?
Like the writer in me can see like, okay, how do I get from this to here? And I could hear the writer could probably hear every voice going like, how did he get, like, who cares? They like the cake. I explained it in another scene. Who doesn't like the cake? Just move on.
I guess
I could hear that.
But why
I
make
could
it
hear
so
that.
difficult? I guess this guy's hard to track down, but it seems like the movie makes it more difficult for itself than it has to.
Are photographers really that, like, beholden to that like, we have no idea how to reach him? We don't talk to him.
They wouldn't
don't
work
even
with
know
him.
what he
I don't
looks
care.
like.
don't care how good his photos are. If this guy is like totally untrackable, like how do they even like hire him in the first place?
Yeah, just get Annie Leibovitz.
Oh yeah, there you
go.
Okay, so I think Walter Mitty. Oh, I guess one last thing we can talk about. I guess we mentioned Patton Oswalt, but did that really make any sense to you that Patton Oswalt's it vouches for Ben Stiller's reentry into the United States? Which, by the way, that whole sequence of him getting tackled by TSA done in like the X-ray style, like that didn't really work for me. And like Patton, how do you contact Patton Oswalt to come and get him out of like customs?
They needed a Deus Ex Machina in that situation, and that came in the form of Patton Oswalt. That's my only guess.
I love Patton Oswalt, but like what that
literally of the cell phone machine.
They did kind of. I kept watching. I kept saying like, why? I mean, they're using Patton Oswalt's voice, and Patton Oswalt's popping up at least like 3 or 4 times, calling. He's like, man, I can't stop thinking about your profile.
I can't stop thinking about you.
And I'm like, what is the end game to this? And
it should have been it should have just been the opening sequence. That first conversation should have been it, and it should have just been a cameo from Patton Oswalt. But they really drag it out. Apparently, Walter Mitty gets great reception in the like ungoverned territories of the Afghanistan mountains, and again, he comes out at the end to bail him out, and it just kind of is indicative of the whole movie to just do things over and over, way too much, right? It just kind of like doesn't know when to pull back on its ideas.
It did have one line that like when I think Patton Oswalt was like, "You still having those fantasies?" He's like, "Not so much now." I did go like, "Okay, that's why can't we have more of that?" That was excellent. That's
We needed more of that this whole time.
When are you gonna take it?
Sometimes I don't. If I like a moment, I mean me, personally, I don't like to have the distraction of the camera. I just want to stay in it.
So I think now we can, get into our final assessment of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So I don't know. After all this, how are we feeling? Are we? I guess if we feel inspired, but let's see what the percentage is. So Mel, what is like your final take on this movie, and what's your percentage of approval?
It's a great question. It was not bad, as I said. However, I didn't hate it. Love the cast. Just the fact that the second time through, I'm a movie fan. I love watching movies over and over, just like you guys, and memorizing shit that happens. But I had to stop every 10 minutes sometimes. Just like, what is going on? And the fact that it couldn't sink in for me to like survey it enough, I'm going to give it a solid 45%.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. I feel that.
If you were to ask me last week or like a couple days after I watched this movie, I probably would have sided with like the audience score. Like I would have given it that full 71. Like I get it. I think it's appropriate. I remember like it had that really good feeling to it. It makes me feel like I could do something. Then 2 weeks out, I still remember how I felt, but I can barely remember or care to remember anything else. But to echo Mel's sentiments, it's not bad. There's a lot of good things in this movie, and it's like a movie to, you haven't watched this in a while, cozy up with the family or your significant other, and you will walk away going like, oh, I enjoyed that, right, love? 64.
64.
Okay.
Not bad. 64.
Not bad.
I think ultimately the biggest problem I have with this movie is that it could have been a lot better. It seems like there's a lot of potential. Like the cast is really good. I like the ideas, but ultimately, it couldn't really execute those ideas very well in like an interesting or original way. And I think that's a shame. I kind of like really get disappointed when you could see that there was something that was a lot better somewhere in there, but it just didn't get there for whatever reason. So I'm kind of siding more towards where Mel is on this. So I feel like I would give this like I'm feeling like a 49.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's like
Not quite.
Ooh.
Not quite.
it's like in the middle of like it's like absolutely not terrible, but
Not bad.
right. It's to me it's like disappointing is the best way I'd put it. I want it to be so much better and it just didn't get there. So what is our average, Keith?
We are a bunch of critical critics. It is 52.6. So we are kind of very in line with the critic score.
Oh, right
Good
there.
job.
It was very close. Okay, so it is no secret that on The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, we are siding with the critics. Which actually, by the way, I guess his secret life are his like fantasies, right? I guess, but that's not really his life. I feel like that title implies that he's kind of like got a second life that no one knows about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I agree
secret,
with that.
right? I feel like the title even is like kind of a bit of a miss too.
You're like,
I don't know.
who?
We still love you, Ben.
Yeah, we still love you, Ben. We still adore you.
We
And
still
Mr.
love you, Ben.
Furious. And just, I'm putting my 2 cents in now that we're talking about Ben Stiller that I want to do Mystery Men with y'all. Still want to. I think I said that last time.
We can maybe do like a bonus episode on just Ben Stiller and talk about like our favorite movies from him.
That would be
You
really
know?
good.
What have you done, Derek? Nothing. You've done nothing. That's my favorite Ben Stiller movie, Zoolander. That would be my pick. So yeah, we'll put that one down for a future episode for sure. But thanks, Mel, for coming back on the podcast
Yes,
with
thank
us.
you.
It was a pleasure once again.
Oh, and I did want to ask you guys before we end this, what was the selection of this movie in particular? Just that it was divided, or is there something that you were like, let's do it?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I discovered it was divided. I don't know like exactly when this movie popped into my head, because usually when we figure out when movies are divided, it's just like we think, oh, what about this movie? Is it divided? We look it up and we'll see if it is. So for Secret Life of Walter Mitty, I think I probably just came across it maybe one day on either TV or on a streaming service.
Probably
or
like
something.
newly available Walter Mitty.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's been on Hulu for a while. So that is what gave me the idea to look into it. And lo and behold, here we are.
He's very good at picking out the movies and the guests with the movies. If we're
Thank
keeping
you,
this
sir.
in. If we're keeping this in.
Thank
you, love.
Aw, thanks for having me, you guys. You guys are the best.
So yeah, thanks again, Mel, and wish you best of
thank
luck
you.
with your film.
Thanks. Appreciate
Yes.
Definitely keep us posted. We wish you all the success with that.
it. Totally will. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, and we'll definitely think of you again for future episodes.
You got it.
So
Ben Stiller-esque episode.
Hey, I'm there.
you're our Ben Stiller correspondent.
Any day. Any day.
Sounds good. Okay, everyone. Thanks for listening, guys, and join us again for another Divided Film. Thanks a lot. Bye.